Hey, what's up you guys? You're watching Team APS. I'm with Alec today. This video is part of our summer of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where we're uploading a new video every single day. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And in today's video, we're going to share what are, in our opinion, the top 5 legacy decks in Yu-Gi-Oh!
You know, Arc 5 era is over. But a lot of cool things came about because of the Arc 5 era. We got a lot of new decks, but also we got support for much older decks in the form of legacy support.
Yeah, and I thought that was cool. So, the number 5, Blackluster Soldier. Blackluster Soldier, it's pretty cool. The
She also tied
retrains.
us to Gaia. We're not going to talk about Gaia, but Gaia was there.
The whole Blackluster Soldier, you know, the new Gaias, I guess like Sphere Karibo and all of that kind of go in, Gateway of Chaos. The support for this deck was really fun, at least on paper. I can't say it's my favorite, and that's why it only got number 5 on this list, but the idea is that you're summoning Blackluster Super Soldier, and it's the retrain. It's cool because unlike, you know, the regular Blackluster Soldier, it actually kind of has, you know,
effects.
And some effects and things like that, which is really neat. And they also had a lot of support for it. There's like Super Soldier Ritual to summon it, Super Soldier Shield, Super Soldier Rebirth, those kinds of cards. Gateway to Chaos could search the cards you needed for it. And Gateway to Chaos is a pretty decent field spell. You know, I think that the main problem I had with this deck, that I think a lot of the later decks in this list did a better job of like solving with their original monsters, was that this still had all the problems of like rituals, and that kind of is where it fell short to me.
I find that offensive since they made Necros and they showed that they can mitigate the problems of being a ritual deck. They just chose not to with
Right. Yeah, and it really sucks too, because it's like this deck couldn't even run pre-prep. Like, you can kind of run pre-prep, but if you run pre-prep, then you have to run like the original Blackluster Ritual.
Oh, prep or pre-prep?
Pre-prep.
Oh.
You can't run prep because prep's level 7 or lower. So you try to run pre-prep, but then pre-prep has to have the specific name of the ritual monster, and that doesn't work because Super Soldier Ritual doesn't specifically name stuff, so then you have to run the old Blackluster Ritual, which has no other effects, and you have to run the original Blackluster Soldier, which is just a vanilla. And like, it's cool because if you use those Evening Twilight Night and the other one, Beginning Night,
Beginning Twilight,
they're okay. They give your Blackluster Soldier cool effects, but they're kind of difficult to really search out consistently. You know, the Gaias kind of have the same issue. I feel like they're not meaningful on their own, and they're kind of hard to search out. And when you don't have your ritual spells and your ritual monsters, then like, how are you really meant to summon any of it? So that's kind of where that deck fell short. Now, we've done theme duels with it. I think you played Blackluster. You played Buster Blader against it. Yeah. What do you think was the problem with like the Blackluster Soldier deck? Everything. I didn't like it that much.
They had a hard time with his hands because it was a ritual deck. You really need to get that spell and the monster, and it wasn't always easy to get that, and you have to get your tributes, and it just wasn't as friendly to you as like something like Necros or even Cyber Angels as far as getting your materials and
getting things to work,
churning out these rituals. And
then one other last thing is actually the monster wasn't well protected either. Like, it could just get bottomless, and that always really sucked. Like, it could get bottomless, it could get like compulsed or deprisoned or kind of whatever. So yeah, that's why it earns number 5 on this list.
So number 4, now that is Buster Blader. Now,
much better.
Where do I start Buster Blader? We initially got our retrain. That's Destruction Swordsman Buster Blader guy.
Yeah.
He was cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, he was cool. Wasn't perfect, but he was a Buster Blader with an effect, and that was a start. Then we got the Whelp.
Yeah, the Whelps.
Our level 1 like Stratos Playmaker. He was like Red Son of Legend.
Yeah, he's
Black Son of Legend.
There were actually several Whelps, right?
Yeah, there was.
But I think he was the only.
He was the Playmaker. The other ones were kind of they were the equip monsters.
And they would give it like what? Like one of them, maybe your opponent couldn't special summon from the extra deck, I think.
One says Mike monsters. Oh, face-up spells can't activate their effects.
Yeah, things like that. Yeah.
And then some of them, or all of them, I can't remember if they all could do it, was that you could detach them and special summon to the field. And I think one of them was also a tuner like Whelp, so then you can make like Buster Dragon, another cool card. See, Buster Blader was doing it a little different than the other legacy decks. You had your your main deck legacy monsters, and they made a brand new one. It's out of nowhere.
I liked Buster Dragon.
Buster Dragon,
cool.
They made Buster Dragon so well. It was relatively easy to get out. It comboed well with the deck.
It worked well when you had it out with Destruction Swordsman.
Yeah,
because wasn't it Buster Dragon made your opponent's monsters
all dragons
into dragons? Then Destruction Swordsman gains all the attack, and they can't use their effects.
And they have to all be in defense.
They get forced to defense, and he pierces. Trust me, I know it's not a fun strategy to face.
Yeah, I've recently lost to a Buster Blader deck.
I've had some unfortunate losses to that too. Yeah, I mean, I think it really worked better, and they've gotten better support in the spells and traps too.
That newest one that they got.
They got a new trap, I think.
Yeah, it was a trap. It's called oh man.
I know it's like Destruction Sword Flash and Destruction Sword Fusion.
We don't acknowledge Flash. Well, it's not terrible.
Is Flash on the bench? Is everything?
Yeah.
Or the bench is all you're playing? That's pretty decent.
Yeah, Flash was cool. It was cool to resolve that card.
What's cool too is you can use Ultra Polymerization in that deck.
It works very well.
This
is another way of setting up that Buster Dragon plus
Swordsman play.
Just Swordsman guy. Oh, it's an ugly field to deal with.
And another neat thing is it can actually combine with Blue Eyes, like Sage with Eyes of Blue.
Yeah, Buster Blader Blue Eyes was a really popular variant.
Yeah, I had a friend who played that, so it's neat. Number 3 deck, Red Eyes. Now this is actually a pretty tough one for us, but deciding
between Buster Blader and Red Eyes, it was a
because they're both very like similar powered decks. I think my problem with Red Eyes was that it got good legacy support. Redstone, expensive cards. The Redstone was another good thing, and the Black Flare Dragon and the Xyz is awesome.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, jeez, that Xyz.
But it didn't really come together, and like Red Eyes Fusion.
It took a while for that deck to really.
Because it didn't get Insight until like much later.
That took forever, and
like,
I mean,
Insight, it was like a year.
Meteor Dragon took a while to come, and he enabled more plays.
What did you think about the deck? Because you played it a little bit more than I did.
Red Eyes is a fun deck, mainly just because you had options the way you played the deck. You could focus on rank 7, you could focus on the fusions, you could focus on the burn aspect, you could focus on the beatdown aspect.
The Gemini part.
And you could focus on the Gemini part.
Because didn't your build, you had Catalyst Field and
my build, I ran just a little bit of everything.
Things like that.
This would work for me. And other people could disagree, they could build it how they wanted to. It really wasn't too wrong of a way. We used to have to rely almost exclusively on that Blackstone. But then
now it's not as
now you can run like prevalent. 2 of it. You don't need as many. You can make plays without it.
I was always salty that they didn't make Blackstone nearly as good as Whitestone of Ancients.
Man, if it was a Cards of Consonance target, man,
like it's so unfair. Like it can't be a tuner. Give Red Eyes some level 8s, man. It'd be great.
Because I mean, Azure Eyes works for us just as well as it does for you.
Yeah. Now I do think that my gripes with Red Eyes pretty much just came from the fact that it felt overbalanced to me.
Well, if you compare it to Blue Eyes.
When you compare it to like what Blue Eyes got, it just felt like you're already using monsters with like less attack and stuff. They already have a less compatible level, so you don't get trade in and you don't get to make these level 9 synchros. So but then they still couldn't make like Redstone be able to activate both of its effects in one turn. That's lame to me. They couldn't make it a tuner, just stuff like that. And they had to wait so long to give us Red Eyes Insight, and that really blows.
They should have put Red MD to 2 or 3.
Yeah, and it's actually sad that like Red MD works pretty well with the deck, but actually doesn't mesh as well as you'd think because it's not compatible with like cards the Redstone and stuff.
It's just really fragile too. Because
the deck
if you could run multiple of it, then it probably wouldn't be that bad. But running one Red MD can't protect himself. He might give you a nice field, and he also might not.
He might just die. Yeah, the deck doesn't really get any built-in protections. It can at least use Return of the Dragon Lords, so that was fun.
That's always a good card.
But yeah, it wasn't. It was pretty good. Like between it and Buster Blader, they're very close. Yeah, it's a close call
for sure. So our second deck is
the Dark Magician.
Yes. Now this was a solid number 2.
Yeah, it actually earned its spot. Although, like Red Eyes, it started really slow with the legacy. Like. I remember the nights when we were trying to build it from just the support in Shining Darkness.
We had
or
to
not
work
Shining Darkness, but
so hard.
Shining, whatever, the Dark Illusion, that. At first it wasn't great. It had Dark Magical Circle, and it had navigation, but like, that just wasn't enough.
You made one turn. You made one play a turn, and you just to pray that was the play you needed to.
Yeah,
make.
it was really inconsistent. But then this deck came into its own because it got Dark Magic Inheritance, Eternal Soul. All those cards really did help. Recently, it got the Dark Magician Girl, Apprentice.
That's true. Apprentice Illusion Magician.
You want to spend $1 million
another
on
card.
her.
But she's another card that allows you to do more plays. That's a deck needed. Just options.
Now, when this deck finally did become good, it actually topped a few regionals. The loop of Eternal Soul with Dark Magical Circle, where you're getting a Dark Magician each turn and banishing something each turn, like my turn I banished, and then your turn I banished, and then that got actually pretty tough to deal with.
Yeah, it's a nasty little -1 your opponent will take on your turn, on their turn, on their.
Yeah.
Some decks can't deal with that.
Yeah, a lot of decks have trouble dealing with it. Not to mention the fact that this deck is consistent after all the draw power it got. When you have like 3 rods, 3 circles, 2-3 inheritance, illusion magic, and allure of darkness.
You can run Pot of Desires, Iron, Card of Demise.
Yeah, duality also works well. This deck is pretty consistent. And there are also neat techs you can run. Knight's End Sorcerer can be summoned with like Magician's Navigation, and you can also use like Kaiku, things like that. You could use Magician Girls.
Or even what was the name? Shaolin the Prophet.
Yeah. Oh, and you get Dark Magic attack, and it's searchable through Eternal Soul. So, it's literally a free sort of Harpy's Feather Duster. So, I honestly and truly think that it does earn the #2 spot. It is a good deck. It's fun to play. I enjoy it. It can be a bit fragile.
Yeah.
MST at the wrong time can
Twin Twist is the bane of my existence.
But overall, it's great.
Yeah.
And the #1 deck is
Blue Eyes.
I don't think this shouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah, at this point.
It's the only deck that kind of became a meta deck for some time.
And, Blue Eyes is kind of like a slap in the face to all the legacy decks.
Yeah.
Because
they got the most unfair support.
They didn't even worry about once per turn clauses, really.
Yeah, and almost none of them have, like, any of that. It's just, the thing with Blue Eyes, I think that really separated it from their other legacy decks is that it's simple. Like, whereas the other legacy decks are trying to get off these multi-card combos or these setups with some continuous spell or some kind of weird situational thing, or like you can only use this with this type of card, not this. Blue Eyes just kind of worked. Like, you had multiple targets for trade-in and cards of constant, so you just got to draw, and you just summoned a bunch of big monsters, and you just summon them again and again and again until you win.
Sometimes you Xyz, a lot of times you Synchro.
Summon. Spirit Dragon's really good.
They made that card way too well.
Yeah, Spirit Dragon's really good. Dragon Spirit of White, Sage, searches Effect Veiler and all your other tuners and stuff. The deck's just consistent and it's simple, and really, like I said, it's the one deck that actually was meta relevant for a time. So you could actually take it to tournaments. Yeah, with links, I think it will be decent because it doesn't have to use the extra deck too much.
It really doesn't. It only needs one monster.
Yeah, so all in all, I think Blue Eyes easily the strongest of the decks. Now that being said, if you watch our theme duels, you'll find out it is not immune to losing.
Every deck has its weaknesses.
But I do think it is the most solid of the legacy decks. So.
But it's Brick City.
Yeah, it can brick. It doesn't have a defensive sort of aspect to it, but yeah. So that concludes
our top 5 legacy decks.
Yeah, what about you guys? Technically, there were other legacy decks that did get bits of support.
But we don't acknowledge those.
You got like Harpies and things like that, kind of. No. I don't know. But let us know what you guys think. What was your favorite legacy deck support? What do you hope to see in the future? I know that we're getting Amazoness support and like Legendary Fisherman.
Yeah, Morphtronics.
Yeah, things like. Sure, why not?
I mean, they were. I don't know if we count that actually.